Okay, hello. So I wanted to say that you two I've known you guys for a long time. I should say gals. I've known you gals for a long time, but let me introduce you properly. So on the left of your screen, so Eve Torres Gracie. Do you like going by Eve Torres Gracie or Eve Gracie now?
I mean, I usually sign everything Eve Gracie, but
Okay.
my official Twitter name, Instagram name is Eve Torres Gracie. Just for people who know me as Eve Torres.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so you've done so much in your career, and I'll just name just a few things, obviously, from starting off Clippers dancer. I'm bringing it way back, way back, to fast forward WWE Super Champion, Divas Champion, 3 times. Amazing, with a lot in between. But obviously, you're doing a lot more in martial arts, jiu-jitsu now, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then your compadre here, so Victoria Parsons Gracie, which I've known both of you for a long time, co-dancer, model. This girl has like lace for days, does things that I wish I could do. Yes. And author, which I had no idea. I was looking at all of your stuff, so just doing like kids books and also working with Jiu-Jitsu and Gracie Jiu-Jitsu as well. So you guys are doing so much phenomenal work, and I saw your Wednesdays. You have a theme for it on Wednesdays? What is it called?
It's our Women Empowered Live. We gather and talk about all the life's challenges and ways that we can work through them together.
Exactly. And so with your, I don't know how this happened. So you have to, and you don't have to tell me the whole story, but you're both married into jiu-jitsu. So
we can tell you how it happened.
We planned this whole thing.
Sure. Give me whatever version, short or long, you want to do. So
yeah,
who should start?
This is all thanks to Victoria, right? So Victoria met her now husband Hidon. Actually, when we have been friends for a very long time, along with you, Sandra. So I remember I met Victoria before she knew Hidon, and we did a dance job together. We went out to lunch, and she was like telling me about this like new man she met and how amazing he was, and all about jiu-jitsu and et cetera, et cetera. Well, and then fast forward, I want to say about 6 months, and then we connected again. I was single at the time, and then
which is just ludicrous. How could this amazing woman be single?
Right.
When all the men are at her feet. I'm like, no, you got to pick one if you want one, or pick them all.
She convinced me to come take a jiu-jitsu class, and that was an easy convincing. My brother had trained jiu-jitsu in high school. I had just started with WWE. I had already encountered a few sketchy situations on the road. I was like, oh, I'm in. And then she slips in there like, oh, and I also want you to meet somebody. And really, it was all just this like ploy.
Total setup.
Was it setup?
To get me to meet Hidon's brother. And so I go in for my first jiu-jitsu class thinking I'm just going to, train jiu-jitsu, maybe meet this guy and shake his hand and say, hi, nice to meet you, and then go about my jiu-jitsu class. No. Henner taught my first jiu-jitsu class, so I met my husband basically by him mounting on me and holding me down and saying, how do you get out of here? That's
who has that story? I mean, come on.
Yeah, right. But it was consensual, of course. So, I mean, and then, yes, that's when it started. That was like 12 years ago. And so I kept training jiu-jitsu. I kept seeing him, and now we're married. They're married.
Yes. And
it couldn't be a better sister-in-law situation. Like Victoria just manifests. Like she's like, I want to make this happen and just go. So I'm always like, hey, draw a picture of this thing that I want to happen. Like, because she just makes it happen. It's,
well,
we brought this together.
And so there's no better way to pick your own sister-in-law than to just go, this one, please.
This one.
You're like, you're in my family now.
Yeah.
You know it, but you will be.
I've always wanted a sister like her. Okay, I'll have a sister like her.
That's so cute. Okay, so, and you both have families. So what I wanted to ask you about, because this whole women empowered moment is not just a Wednesday thing. Like, you've been doing this for a long time, and I looked at, the website has a ton of information about, the actual program and, all of the things that people will learn. So, how did it come about that, like, people needed to know it? Like, I assume, like, women need self-defense, and women need to understand that, they're in charge of their own domain, and it's not something that they should just take lightly. But what made you guys decide to address it and have it be a more continued conversation, let's say?
Sure. Well, I can speak for you know, for myself here, which is I'll speak for you too. No.
Yeah. I like that. See why I got her in the family.
I know well enough. No. But you know, upon basically entering really this family, which for those who don't know, you know, basically the Gracie family is kind of responsible for known for creating Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, which is now known as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and it's trained all over the world, all over the country. Every city you live in, you'll probably pass by a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu school or a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school. So their family, their grandfather was the one kind of named as one of the co-creators of it. So we weren't married yet, but I guess we kind of entered into this. And my first experience with Jiu-Jitsu was that of this feeling, almost like an overwhelming, almost like an anger that I hadn't yet known this, and that here I was at, you know, I think I was 23, which was still actually really young, but you know, knowing that my brother did this in high school and I knew nothing about it. Like, my brother did this thing and he would always grab me in some holds and whatever, but it was so far from anything that I would have participated in, didn't know anything, but no one asked me if I wanted to do, like, it was just so distant. And I'm like, why aren't more women learning this? Like, this is effective. And so really that was like, just that feeling was what continued to basically, you know, as I continue to train, as we continue to train, to say we need to create a path for women to find jiu-jitsu and to make it feel like it's speaking to them.
Yeah, right. And I'm going to just interject there for one quick second, because I think a lot of what we realize as well is that some of the misconceptions of martial arts and even like MMA, UFC as a whole, it's like a slaughterhouse thing that has to be this masculine energy that you slam someone and it's like personified as such. And yeah, like, it's so intense and it's so like aggro that, of course, your feminine energy that wants to exist not only in peace, but like just be safe. Like, I don't want to have to go there all the time. That doesn't mean you can't. Just that's not the energy that you want to be training in 24/7. And what we realized with a lot of the jiu-jitsu that we were exposed to, what the gift that our now husbands have given us, is that jiu-jitsu is incredibly technical. The same way ballet will help you do any kind of hip hop, even football players learn ballet for that technique, for that body connection. Jiu-jitsu is that same idea in terms of self-defense, of understanding technique and leverage versus having to muscle things out to go aggro and go nuts. That doesn't mean you can't go nuts, but having the technique makes all the difference. And we realized, wow, we can be these beautiful feminine figures that we were trying to cultivate for ourselves, but have this toolkit that makes us lethal. Sign me up. And that was something that was never transposed to us in other martial arts or even in this one, which is kind of when Eve started looking at this and her ability to like look at a program and make it kind of like not only linear and make sense for women. And then we started saying, well, how can we sell this to women differently than MMA or UFC is sold to men, right? And I'm putting it in quotes because I understand that there's more of a spectrum on genders and there's a whole different idea of what females even think men or women should be.
What constitutes masculinity or femininity, right?
So I'm giving you some grace there. I understand. But we looked at this and we said, wow, this just needs to be marketed differently because it is such an asset for every female or violence against women that we know.
Right. Exactly. And when you think about who needs this, right? Like, hello. I mean, it wasn't speaking to the demographic of the world who potentially needs this the most. When you look at statistics about violence, the violence that women encounter. And so it basically, we had to kind of be a filter for jiu-jitsu for women, where we go, okay, and our husbands did an incredible job kind of tailoring the techniques down to, you know, here's the most common and dangerous threats against women. Focus on those, right? You don't need to be a black belt in jiu-jitsu and train 10 years to be able to feel like you will know what to do if you are ever encountered in a situation that makes you feel unsafe. And so we focus specifically on those. And really what that does is then women go, you're speaking my language. I get that because I've had that fear, or I've had that happen to me. Or, you know, these are all scenarios that women can really relate to. And then when it's created for women, taught by women, then it all of a sudden is something, it's for women. It's not just, you know, it's not just jiu-jitsu and then there's women in the class. It's like this has been curated specifically for women's needs, and that's what had not yet been done. And so now we're seeing this beautiful growth of female participation, and not just Women Empowered, which is our self-defense program, but also in jiu-jitsu in general. So they do this, they continue on to these like co-ed classes, and it's just you know, that has been the biggest gift of all of this, is seeing when we first started where we would be maybe the only female in a class, maybe one other woman would be in a class, and now we've got classes, almost half the class can be women, even our co-ed classes, and that's just a beautiful kind of growth to see in that
well,
area.
so what do you think is the barrier for maybe someone who's never tried it, you know, and is it just a fear of that, you know, I don't want to be manhandled, or I don't know if I can do it, or what do you think is like the most common thing preventing someone from actually taking a class?
I would say it's the ideas of what they think the class is actually going to be.
Yeah.
It's the imagination of again, the depiction of what they assume jiu-jitsu is, which they always tie it to MMA, which they think if I have to get into a ring with someone like Ronda Rousey, who is a lethal human being, of course not. I don't want to do that because she's amazing. But when you understand that training, like training for ballet is different than showing up on the actual stage and having to do 60 pirouettes. Like we're going to start with tendus. We're going to start slow. We're going to understand where the person's physicality is. You come in with injuries. And I think the biggest barrier is their mind or their previous history with anything that might be triggered in a position with another man like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely it. And I think, what they kind of perceive it to be. And by the way, this is not just women. Like there are men who go, like they look at it and they see like two men like grappling on top of each other, and they're just like, I don't know. I'm not sure.
I don't want to be grounded and pounded today.
If it's not explained in a way where you understand, like, you know, it's where it's more of a chess game than it is just like like we're, you know, just going, you're trying to kill each other. And then also when it's not approached with a trauma-informed approach, then it can be something that women go into and go, oh my gosh, that was a horrible experience. Like there have been women who have had horrible experiences going into a martial arts school or to a jiu-jitsu school where the instructor was not really aware or informed about the effects that past traumas can have on students as they embark on their journey and their self-defense journey.
Yeah. So when I hear this, I always think we believe jiu-jitsu is for everyone, but we don't believe every jiu-jitsu school is for everyone, because they're all cultivated with different energies. And you know this in the dance world as well, Sandra. You walk into different studios and there's women with sticks hitting parts of your body to be perfect. And there's another studio which let's just like flow and follow me. Find your inner, you know, dancer and match it as best your body can. Like there's just a whole spectrum as it is with jiu-jitsu schools. Yeah.
So learning styles are definitely different, especially online, which is what, you know, kind of prompted this whole icons of online movement thing. Is everything is online. And I know that you have, you know, a whole university, you know, I'm like a whole curriculum that people can actually go to your, you know, to go to the website. I think it's gracieuniversity.com, and then you can get into your dashboard, and, you know, there are things on there where you may not even, do you have to even go to the school? I mean, like to actually take class. So talk more a little bit about what they can do just at home, maybe.
Okay, before we do that, I want to give a little bit of props to our husbands, because starting, I want to say, what is it, 12 years ago?
12 years ago,
12 years ago, they embarked on the idea of creating an online curriculum.
Okay.
And when they did this 12 years ago, everybody was like, you can't learn online. Like, this doesn't make any sense.
Especially martial arts. You cannot learn martial arts online.
Impossible.
Jiu-jitsu, like, it was such a traditional, you know, it's a traditional self-defense. Yeah. So they got the wrath. Like when they basically came out with this program, everyone's going, what the heck are you doing? Like, this cannot be learned. You know, they thought it was like a scam. They thought
they're like, information cannot be disseminated through a technical device while someone sits at home trying to learn that information. Yeah. And the crazy part is, Sandra, is that we sat there kind of holding their hearts for, again, years. They poured out more hours then I can count into the building of this online university and of an ongoing curriculum where people can do what the whole world is doing right now, which is sitting in the comfort of their home and learning from that. So I want to give them a little credit where it's due on any platform that I can, because they really not only paved a way, but went against a river of like, no, not possible, you can't do it. And because of them, we are able to have our program be online and allow for people to, as easy as you're asking, log on, create a membership, and just start watching and start learning.
Yeah. And what's really unique about what they created and initially is this idea of a linear curriculum. So, you know, especially with jiu-jitsu, and I'm sure, I mean, actually it would be the same with dance or with any, there's basics, right? Like you don't come into a skill and start learning the, you know, like these complex things. Whereas actually a lot of jiu-jitsu schools, because there's no curriculum, they come in and it's like all of a sudden you're learning these like random sweeps in your whole, and that have no,
so advanced.
It's kind of like there's no correlation to your everyday needs.
Right.
So they, the curriculums, that all of our curriculums are linear. What that means is you can start from zero knowledge, meaning you've never stepped foot in a dojo, you've never stepped foot in a jiu-jitsu school or martial arts, you've never done martial arts in your life. And you watch lesson number 1 and we're talking to you as if you have never seen any of this stuff. And then lesson number 2 builds on lesson number 1. Lesson number 3 builds on lesson number 2. And it goes, you know,
It's
literally
building blocks.
It is. And what's crazy is that we have seen the you know, now that it's 12 years later, we've seen the product of that. So there are people out there who don't have schools at their disposal, right? They don't have a certified training center nearby or a jiu-jitsu school nearby. And so they turn their own garage into this, you know, learning, this learning called Gracie garages, right? And it is amazing. Like I will go so far as to say that the people who have learned strictly online are far more technical than the people who train right here at Gracie University headquarters with the Gracies live, right? Like their level of understanding of technique and of everything, because they learned it linearly, which is actually the best way to learn anything. And in group classes, it's just hard to do that, right? Because everyone shows up and you're just kind of picking up with everyone else. You walk into a yoga class, they don't know where you started. So you just kind of like got to jump in and learn with everybody else.
I have a theory on that too. When I was in college, I studied computer science and I did a bunch of online classes at the time that they started. And I remember being at home doing the online class, and because it's graded on a curve, I kept thinking, I have to do better and better and better. And I ended up acing the class from an online perspective. I did better than any of the kids who would go in person. Right. Because I had so much anxiety that I wasn't doing enough. And I think that strangely, anxiety works in our benefit there as well.
You're an overachiever.
Yeah, because if you're at home, you're like, I need to see everything. But you could also replay the video 50 times, which you can't always do in person.
Right. Well, so what is next, do you think, as far as, you know, you have this program, you're doing your weekly kind of online talk, talking about certain, you know, themes in, you know, self-defense and how people can, you know, increase their skills and just be more self-aware. What is next for both of you? Like, are you taking it on tour? Or like where?
I'm just the road.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. We have a lot of ideas. There's something that she's got in the works for sure.
Yeah. So as far as you know, Women Empowered and kind of especially our online expansion, a couple things that are happening right now actually, which is, so the online curriculum is such a great way to learn from home, but the truth is you need a partner for that, right? You need a training partner, and that actually has been something that has hindered a lot of people from being able to learn, right? Now what's crazy is that with COVID, the introduction of COVID into our lives, again, every business had to pivot, and us included, because even though we had these online curriculums where it's like, great, a lot of people who had a husband or a wife or a brother or sister, or roommate or whoever that they felt comfortable training with were training, but there were so many people who didn't have anyone. And so that's when we said, okay, we have to create, we basically created our Zoom classes for solo jiu-jitsu training. Now that sounds crazy to anyone who's ever trained jiu-jitsu before, because the whole point of jiu-jitsu is you have to do it with somebody else. But we have basically created a program, and obviously at some point you would want to introduce another body in there to kind of give some context. But all of our classes for Zoom have been for solo training, meaning that anyone, even if you don't have a partner, can check out our Zoom classes. You can email gracieuniversity.com, and they'll send you all the information. We have like a 2-week waiting list right now, but we're getting students from all over the world to join us live, you know, with our classes, and you can learn this solo, right? So that's happening right now. I would say the next, in terms of like the future of specifically for Women Empowered, is this idea that obviously online is a huge part of it. But the other great thing about the online training is that it enables us to basically create soldiers all over the world. So we have now all these female soldiers who are going to be teaching Women Empowered in their communities. So our Women Empowered Instructor Certification Program is also online. The majority of it is online. And then there's a final portion that's in person. But basically, this is now, you know, in order to make self-defense truly accessible to women around the world, we need more women teaching it. And so that is kind of the next step forward. We have our live certification coming up in July. This year has to be on Zoom. Normally it is live, but yeah, so we're really excited about, you know, all the instructors that we currently have and all the new instructors coming in, of all these women saying, I just want to share this with my community in whatever way, whether it's for profit, whether it's not for profit, whether they're, you know, going to different countries and sharing this with other women in communities that don't have access to this. Like, it's the spectrum of what can be done is just amazing when you get tons of women who are passionate about what they're doing.
And I was going to say that for me, that's what I've noticed has been such a beautiful thing, is that these women come because they've had adverse experiences in any realm of violence against them. And they come here, and for the first time in their life, again, the same thing that we experienced, like at 20 something, we're like, how did we not know that these tools exist? Like, this could have helped me in a myriad of situations. And they've changed these women's life. And now these women want to take this on, learn all the information, and then share it with their peers, family members, and cities and or organizations. So it's been quite reaffirming for what we feel we're sharing, to go, oh my gosh, women not only realize the impact that this has on them and their communities, but they want to continue spreading this as well. How can we empower this community to do that? So we are just pouring ourselves into sharing. And that's why Wednesdays became so important to me. We know that the differential as well between our program and many self-defense programs for women is simply that we address not just the physical, but the emotional, the psychological, every aspect of that. And when we sat with that, we go, well, we should do this on a more global scale as well, because in our classes we can talk about this. In our classes we can have these in-depth talks, but we're not doing that enough globally. So let's start having these conversations.
And even in our classes, I feel like we don't do it enough, you know, because it is so physical and it's so technical that we go, oh my God, there's so many parts to this that need to be processed and understood outside of just the physical techniques, right? It's so much of it is just the psychology of self-defense. And then we apply these self-defense principles to all areas of life.
Yeah.
Well, so you're doing a lot. so you're busy. And on top of that, you have families. So, you know, do you?
Oh yeah, that.
Yeah, you know.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know how you guys do it. I know I told you I only needed 10 minutes of your time, and we've totally gone over that. But I love you guys. So I want you to know that, you know, people look up to both of you. I know, and there's so much that they can gain, even just from this conversation, in that you are both amazing public speakers, mentors, family, you know, curators, if you will. You've got amazing, you know, an amazing way to articulate exactly how someone might feel going into a new class, and pulling them in and saying it's okay to feel that way, and being able to take them up a notch, which is exactly what I want people to take away from this, is that you can take everything up a notch and still be the beginner, or you know what I mean, just to feel comfortable in your own skin. And I think that that's something that, with everything that I've seen of, you know, your talks and even the curriculum, is like, it's okay to start at 0, but if you want to start at 100, we're going to be there with you, because you guys are obviously at 1,000. I've seen the videos where you're like, this is not the way to do it, and this is the way to do it, and you're like fully engaged with your husbands, and I'm like, that's not me. But I watch you every day, all day. But there are some viral videos that I think, you know, both of you have created that really demonstrate how, you know, women have not really, on a grand scale, put themselves in that position to say, I'm in charge of my space, you know, and I've pretty much in this, you know, period of time where we've been in quarantine and had to social distance, I've seen how much people are mad about being away from each other, you know, or being forced to be away from each other. And I told my husband, I said, I don't mind having 6 feet apart in the grocery store. I'm okay with people not knowing that I'm buying whatever it is that I'm buying. You know what I mean? And so just that kind of moment to take a breath is really important. And I know that that's kind of like, and I don't know the exact curriculum, but I feel like just being able to be aware of your environment is something that people have learned over this social distancing period that probably will help them in your class to say, where am I and who's behind me? You know, just in that sense. And so I want people to know where to find you because, you know, you have different social handles than your actual names because I found that out with Victoria. So I know that Eve is the same. So Eve Torres Gracie is your handle on Instagram. And then Victoria is just Vic Gracie on Instagram. And then you can find everything at gracieuniversity.com. Is there any other website that they should be going to for your particular Women Empowered or to try to become an instructor or anything like that?
Yeah, you can also follow our Women Empowered Instagram, which is at Women Empowered GJJ, which stands for Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. So at Women Empowered GJJ. And we actually just launched a YouTube page specifically for that. It's like brand spanking new. It's got like 4 news. Like
breaking news.
So we would love people to subscribe to that. We're going to try to do all of our lives from there in the future, and all of our you know, all the content that we put out through the Women Empowered Instagram, because we've found that we have a little bit of a different following than our husbands when it comes to some of these conversations. So it's nice to have ones that feel a little bit safer to talk about some of the things that we talk about. And the people who are following it are ones that are truly engaging.
And those links are all in each of our social media profiles. So you can subscribe from any of our profile pages.
All the bio.
Hey, Goose, I see you.
Oh, I see you.
Kristen, Halawadi. Hey, Cherie, thanks for those sweet words. I saw that too.
Yeah. I know people have been commenting, and I feel like, what do they say? I know I saw somebody that said hi from Chile. You have so many people around the world that love you guys. So I just want people to make sure that they are tuned in to what you're doing because I know that this is going to grow and grow and grow. And I love you guys. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Sandra. And I love that you're creating a platform to just bring women together and to talk about what each other are doing. So
I know. Well, and I feel like you guys are just, you know, top of the pops for me. So
Sandra.
I mean, I know we've all been in dressing rooms together, you know, rushing to get on stage. So I appreciate the you know, calmer times. We'll put it that way.
It's a lot different now than when we used to hang out, guys.
Different.
Yes.
Anxiety filled, ready to go on stage, wearing tights and a leotard.
Yeah. I know. I mean, Eve, I remember we were in, was it Victoria's Secret Fashion Show? Both of us, we were all there. We all did like lights crashing around you and glass going. I mean, yes, 3 levels high. Yeah.
Yeah. Were you on the top level? We were trying to get to the
Yes.
On the top level?
Top level.
Were we top level? I don't know why I thought it was medium level.
That's
but maybe
so
I just
high.
We were top level. Nothing behind us. Just air.
It was. Yeah. I'm so surprised no one died on that shoot. To be honest. So surprised. Yeah. But we're here. We made it.
We did. We made it. All right. Well, take care of yourselves. Stay safe and healthy. Mwah, mwah. I'll talk to you.
Thanks, Sandra. Bye.
Bye.